Hello, I'm DJ Neige. This is what we had to watch. Has there ever been a good video game movie? That wasn't a rhetorical question, I really want to know. In spite of all the famous games that have been made into major motion pictures, not one of them has done the franchise justice. You can probably blame it on major studios not taking the subject matter seriously, or simply the existence of Mr. Uwe Boll, but whatever it is, someone always comes away feeling disappointed. So considering how bad a movie based on a video game can be, can you imagine what would happen if someone tried to make a movie out of a game consisting of dice and graph paper? You don't have to! New Line Cinema already made it happen, and boy does it suck! This is Dungeons & Dragons. The movie opens with a monologue that honestly sounds like it's being read off the back of the DVD box.
The Empire of Izmir has long been a divided land, ruled by the mages, an elite group of magic users. The lowly commoners, those without magic, are little more than slaves. Izmir's young empress, Savina, wishes equality and prosperity for all. But the evil mage, Profion, has other intentions.
We're then introduced to the evil mage Profion, played by Jeremy Irons, whose talents are being wasted here.
Release him.
Wow, this movie delivers everything it promises and more. A dungeon, a dragon, a guy with blue lips, and we're only 3 minutes in. I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the hour and a half. And just look at those CG graphics. It's amazing how much they've improved just 3 years after New Line's last attempt at adapting a popular game franchise. So we learn that Profion is planning to overthrow the Empress with an army of dragons. However, his magical axe soul edge thing isn't powerful enough to control the beasts, so he does away with the creature. We're then introduced to our heroes, Ridley, played by the guy who played Jimmy Olsen in Lois and Clark, and Snails, played by Marlon Wayans. They're two commoners who fight the oppressive regime of the mages by making their living as thieves. Or at least Ridley hates the mages. Snails is too busy being an offensive black stereotype to have any actual motivation.
I'd just love to find a way to give those mages some payback.
Oh yeah, Ridley the Savior. That'll be the day.
We'll break into the magic school. Think of what we could find in there.
If we're lucky, we'll find Emma Watson. We then cut back to Profion as he addresses the High Council of Mages. Notice the black robes we saw earlier have been exchanged for white ones, ever so subtly disguising the fact that he's an evil mastermind out to take over the world.
What do you propose, Profion?
I humbly ask that we vote to remove the scepter from the Empress's control so that government in Izmir will remain secure. Remove the scepter which lowers above our heads and destroy the threat of revolution forever! Yes!
You know, I could swear I've seen this somewhere before. Let's see, I distinctly recall Jeremy Irons trying to overthrow a royal family, amassing a band of blind followers. I think Disney might have been involved, something with lions.
I know it sounds sordid, but you'll be rewarded when at last I am given my dues. And injustice deliciously square. Be prepared.
I think it was called The Cheetah Girls. And since this movie can't seem to concentrate on one character for more than 2 minutes, we cut away again to the Empress Savina, who's distressed to learn of Profion's plot to overthrow her. Before we go any further, I just want to say, no, that's not Anthony Hopkins she's talking to.
What can I do to stop Profion?
You must outsmart him. Over the past years, I have been searching for an ancient artifact called the Rod of Savril. It holds the same powers as your scepter, with one difference. It controls red dragons.
That and +7 intelligence. And just to make sure we know there's one good actor in this movie, we cut back to Profion again, who has overheard the Empress's conversation and decides that he wants the Rod of MacGuffin, or whatever it's called, for himself.
Pay a visit to the magic school and see our friend Vilda. Persuade him to give you the scroll of which he speaks, and...
Scroll? Who said anything about a scroll? Hey, movie, here's an idea. Don't cut away when a character's about to dispense vital information. Cut back to Ridley and Snails as they make their way into Hogwarts, the magic school.
Are you gonna jump?
You gonna catch me?
I'm gonna catch you.
Promise?
I promise. Now jump.
All right.
What, you didn't think that was funny? Oh, well, don't worry, that's all Snails does in this movie, so there'll be plenty of opportunities to not laugh later. Cut to another scene in 3, 2, 1...
I've already told you, Marina. The Empress can't use...
So we cut back to Hopkins Light and the Magic School's librarian, Marina, as they tried to decode the scroll that apparently everyone knew about except for me.
I never saw a scroll so hard to decode.
But all this bad acting is interrupted as Marina hears something go bump in the night and goes to check it out. After following the sounds of offensive racial caricatures, she stumbles upon Ridley and Snails.
Supposed to put some kind of holding spell into that bracelet! Yeah, it must be the only way she can get guys to come home with her.
I'd have to put a feeble mind spell on myself to want to take you home.
Wow, it's just like two LARPers bickering at a convention. Only this is a major motion picture, so it's twice as pathetic. Meanwhile, Captain Blue Lips has found his way into the library and demands to know where the scroll is. But rather than surrender it to him, the Hopkins lookalike gives the scroll to Marina, so Blue Lips kills him with the Vulcan neck pinch.
Lightning bolt! Lightning bolt!
Marina then makes a break for it, taking Snails and Ridley with her, leading to the first chase sequence this show has seen in weeks. And since Snails is here, it's also the most annoying chase sequence this show has seen ever!
No, the other way!
Just as escape seems impossible for our heroes, a random dwarf shows up, most likely because that was the easiest race apart from humans to recreate for this movie.
Nice lid.
What the hell was that? No, don't move on like nothing happened. I want to know what that noise was. Does the character have Tourette's? Is he half sealed? Does every dwarf come equipped with a car alarm? What? After our heroes, and I use that term loosely, escape, we learn that Marina has been framed for the murder of her master.
They can't be framing me. I'm an aristocrat. A mage.
A low-level mage, completely expendable.
I had a bad stats roll! Back off! So our heroes decide to lay low for a while until they can plan their next move. They also decide to take the dwarf with them for some reason. I guess they figured he'd be a nice compliment to all the weird noises Snails makes. Meanwhile, Profion is less than pleased to learn of old Blue Lips' failure and, as punishment, puts piranha plants in his ears.
This time, Damodar, don't fail me.
Wait, what's his name?
Damodar.
Damn it all.
Damodar.
Domino.
Damodar.
Dabadoo. Cutting back to our heroes, Marina makes another attempt at decoding the scroll.
You know, those red marks there look like the locks my father used to put on plans in his carriages.
Please. This is an ancient scroll, not a blueprint for a buggy.
Look, you don't seem to know what you're doing, so you might as well let me have a look.
Get that back!
Now where did I put my 12-sided dice?
And then he'd say something like, Alinor, Sala, Badara. Can't blame me for trying, at least
Okay, I can't count the number of things wrong with what just happened. First of all, why did Ridley know those magic words? He said he learned them from his father, so why would his father know those magic words? Second, why would the magic words work for him? I thought commoners couldn't use magic. Is Ridley really a mage? Does anyone in the movie want to question what just happened? Could we possibly have some insight as to what's going on inside the scroll? Because if I had to choose between the scroll and watching these two idiots, I'd pick the scroll! Anyway, so after some antics from Snails and the dwarf, who I'm pretty sure doesn't even have a name, they're paid a visit by a guy whose name I can't even pronounce. Oh, so I guess saying the words bar fight automatically causes a bar fight. Do you think that works with anything else? Dance battle! So just as Snails and the dwarf with no name escape, Ridley and Marina re-emerge from the scroll.
According to the wraith inside the scroll, the rod we're looking for caused the Great War.
Oh, so apparently there's a wraith inside the scroll. Would have been real nice to have seen that. Oh, and apparently there was a Great War. Too bad we don't know anything about the Great War because no one bothered to mention it until just now. So after some loud, shrieking reluctance from Snails, Marina is able to convince the two thieves to come with her.
We're in. How about you?
I don't see what choice I have. Just tell me one thing. If I help, who's gonna pay me?
We'll worry about that later.
That's a terrible way to do business.
Are you talking to me? What was that? So anyway, in order to find the Rod of MacGuffin, our heroes must first travel to the city of Antaeus to retrieve something called the Eye of the Dragon from the leader of the Thieves Guild, Xylus. Once they've made it into town, Ridley and Snails hone in on this weirdo, hoping he can provide some information. Oh, please let there be a good actor under all that makeup.
The only thing I know is you ought to take your business out of town before you get the words outsiders not appreciated branded right where your nose used to be.
Nope. So after yet another god-awful performance, our heroes follow the three-eyed dinosaur into the heart of the Thieves Guild, where the Guildmaster Xylus tells them that the Eye of the Dragon lies at the heart of the Guild maze, which isn't really so much a maze as it is a series of booby-trapped rooms. Oh, be careful? I hadn't thought of that. My first instinct was to rush through this thing balls out, but thank God you were here to tell me to be careful. So having made it past the first room, Ridley moves on to the next. Oh wow, holes in the wall. Haven't seen that before. Nope, never. Let me guess, spears are gonna fly out or the room's gonna fill up with sand. Whoa! That's never happened before. Wait. Could it be? The dwarf. He broke the fourth wall. The boundary between reality and fiction has been breached. Which means Ridley's peril is now my own. Ah! You done? So after a few more perils, Ridley emerges with the Eye of the Dragon in hand. But it's not long before Dimmadome shows up, and, in the ensuing scuffle, escapes with Marina and the scroll. While our heroes, or rather our one hero, the stereotype and the dwarf, are discovered by the Empress's tracker Norda and her armor nipples of doom.
It is my business to arrest you and Marina of Pretenza, and to take you and the scroll you stole back to the Empress of Izmir.
Well, one of your fellow lawmen, in fact, the chief of the Crimson Brigade, beat you to the punch. He just took off with Marina.
Damn.
Yeah, that's him. Only he's not working for the law anymore. He's working for Profian.
Believing everything that Ridley says without question, Norda goes off to challenge the Empress to a bad acting contest. A fruitless endeavor, as the Empress is the worst actress in this movie.
Yes. Seek Damodar out. We need that rod.
You probably couldn't guess from my blank expression or monotonous voice, but I am very concerned. Norda then decides to take our heroes with her to track down Damodar. Meanwhile, Didgeridoo has locked Marina away in a dungeon and tries to get some information out of her.
Why were you at the Thieves Guild? It isn't exactly a sightseeing spot, is it?
We needed money for supplies.
Sorry, but you lie about as good as anyone in this movie acts. So having seen through Marina's ruse, Daisy Duke sucks the information out of her. Yeah, you guys can probably think of enough jokes on your own that I don't need to say anything about this part. The next morning, our heroes find where Dumbledore is keeping Marina, so Ridley and Snails go in to retrieve both her and the scroll. Ridley succeeds in saving Marina, but Snails, being the successor to Jar Jar Binks that he is, gets caught by Donald Duck. After some attempts to fight Dance Dance Revolution off, escape proves impossible for our beloved comic relief. That's not my name. Well, what is your name? Because I've just been guessing for the past hour.
Where's my dragon's eye?
Let him go first, and it's yours.
Spelled out! Sorry, Ridley, but the black guy always sacrifices himself. Ridley then goes in to take his revenge on Desdemona, who fights him off easily. But Marina saves Ridley by casting a spell. I don't really see why she couldn't have just done that to save Snails too. I don't know, maybe she didn't roll high enough for initiative. Meanwhile, the childlike Empress tries to win over the High Council of Tools with her best Queen Amidala impression.
Each citizen of Izmir, whether a commoner or a mage, deserves an equal right for prosperity.
Do you hear her words?
We don't have to, we can see them on the cue cards.
I ask you one last time. Will you submit to the ruling of this council and relinquish your scepter?
I will not leave the Empire at the mercy of an unscrupulous charlatan. So decide as you must. But know one thing. I am not afraid.
A wonderful performance.
What movie were you watching? Meanwhile, Marina has regrouped with Norda and brought Ridley to a healer.
How did you do that?
The elven peoples do not require spells to work with magic. You use magic. We are part of it.
We're part of magic.
As are all living creatures, including dragons.
Okay, Captain Non Sequitur, I guess we're talking about dragons now. Just in case you're as distracted by Norda's armor nipples as I was, the elf with the green thumb explains that if the Rod of MacGuffin were to be used in the coming war, the potential dragon deaths could disrupt the balance of magic or some BS like that. After Ridley has had some time to rest, Marina tries to console him over the death of Snails. Wow, this place doesn't look like Endor at all!
I'm sorry.
Oddly enough, this scene probably would have been more credible if it had a few Ewoks. Anyway, so Marina tries to convince Ridley that Snail's death wasn't in vain, and the whole conversation basically turns into, I don't hate mages anymore. I don't hate commoners anymore! Do you want to make out? Yeah! The next day, Ridley is given a badass new sword and our heroes head off to find the rod. Even though the fat elf already told them that using the rod would probably destroy the world.
Dakumora Kakua.
Simola. Kunna bakalawasina. Pola sematabo.
Dakumora Kakua.
Simola.
Our heroes then find the dungeon where the rod is, and Ridley goes in to retrieve it. Using the Eye of the Dragon, Ridley is granted access to the treasure room, where he finds the best performance in the whole movie.
Why do you disturb the Rod of Savril?
Save the Empire of Izmir. Who? What are you?
What? Are you serious? I'm the Crypt Keeper! So after another warning about the end of the world, or something, Ridley emerges with the rod in hand. But Dermatologist returns and makes one last attempt at claiming the rod for Profian. He promises to release the supporting cast in exchange for the rod, and, like a moron, Ridley believes him. A battle ensues, during which Damascus tries to escape, but Ridley follows after him. Meanwhile, we see that war is in full swing as the Empress sends her army of dragons against Profian's forces. Dusseldorf then shows up and surrenders the rod to Profian, who summons his own army of red dragons. Ridley then arrives and engages Dromedary in an epic battle of bad special effects. After dispatching the foe once and for all, Ridley goes after Profian.
Let their blood rain from the sky!
Okay, no joke, I think he is just wasted. I do. I think that at this point in production, Irons was so fed up that he just got progressively more drunk while waiting for his paycheck. Oh yeah, don't stab him or anything, just knock him down. I'm sure you'll get plenty more perfect opportunities like that in the future. So as punishment for being such a dumbass, Profion slaps Ridley around a bit.
Not so talented, eh, Mr. Ridley?
What?! The supporting cast then comes out of nowhere to try and save Ridley. Normally I'd question how they even got there, but I'm still confounded by Profion's knowledge of movies starring Matt Damon. But while Profion's back is turned, Ridley comes back and destroys the Rod of MacGuffin once and for all.
What have you done?
Profion!
Sorry.
It's over, Profion.
The battle may be, Your Majesty. Maybe.
Wait, let me guess.
But not the war!
Oh yeah, no one do anything. Yeah, I'm just fine here getting torn apart by this little CG gremlin skeleton. Please, don't get up. Especially you, Ridley. Don't stab him or anything. You know, in the back. His totally stabbable back. So since all of our heroes are completely useless, Profion's finished off by a random dragon. With Profion gone, the Empress declares equality between commoners and mages, with no regard for the economic or social problems that come with suddenly collapsing a two-class system. As the whole kingdom celebrates somewhere off-screen, Ridley is magically transformed into the Fawns as he says his last goodbye to Snails.
Nothing's gonna be the same without you. I guess I'll have to get used to that.
Lord knows we all have.
Do not question your gift. Your friend awaits you.
Well, I'm sure as hell gonna question it. What's going on? What gift is she talking about? Is this somehow linked to Ridley's potential, which no one ever bothers to explain? Is Snails really alive? Is this New Line's way of saying they want to make a sequel? I sure as hell hope not. This first movie's terrible enough on its own. There's no getting around it. This is one of the worst movies I have ever seen. The story is just one fantasy cliche after another with more plot holes than I care to count. But performances are painful to watch, with half the cast phoning it in while the rest are just bad. And the worst part is, we could have been spared some of these acting nightmares, as a good chunk of these characters contribute nothing to the story. Especially that friggin' dwarf. All he did was break fourth wall, exposing me to all kinds of— Whoa! I'm DJ Neige, and this is what we had to— Whoa! Wait, if the fourth wall is gone, then they should be able to hear me. Oh, this is great! I have so many questions! Let's see, what is the blue-lipped guy's name?